Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks to all of you for being here. General Nahum, General Costello, would you agree with me that PACAF is critical to project air power in our pacing theater, Indo-PACOM?
Yes, sir.
I would think so as well. When I asked Secretary Kendall recently whether the FY23 budget meets all of PACAF's posture requirements, he said he didn't know. So maybe you can tell me, can you confirm that all of the posture requirements identified either by PACAF or for PACAF in the 23 budget cycle are funded in this year's request?
Sir, I guess there's always posture concerns, and it's certainly with some of the aircraft we're replacing. If you look at what we're doing at Kadena with the F-15Cs, certainly with the E3 we just mentioned, there's certainly concern as we recapitalize airplanes. I am not aware of any budgeting concerns with the posture requirements other than replacing aging airplanes is probably my number one concern, because we do have a lot of aging airplanes in the Pacific, not just the F-15Cs at Kadena, but the A-10s sitting in Korea, as well as some F-16s in the Western Pacific as well. And there'll be a significant concern in the coming years as we recapitalize our fleets.
So are you telling me that you think that meeting those challenges, that is not sufficiently funded in this budget, the FY23?
What I would say is we've talked for many years about getting to 72 fighters a year, and that number, as we looked at our fleets and we looked at as airplanes are retiring, and over the next about 10 years, all the legacy airplanes will be out of the Air Force, and that's your F-15Cs, your older F-15Es, your pre-block, your older F-16s, your older F-22s, certainly your A-10s. That's a significant number of airplanes. And if we don't purchase airplanes to replace those, then we either get smaller as a fighter force, or we'll have some locations that will have not as many airplanes as we would need. And so that is a concern, because if you and that's why our chief has said continuously, and we've been very consistent over the last several cycles, that the 72 fighters a year allows us to recapitalize the fighter fleet and keep the capacity where we have it now.
So what do we need to do in the FY23 budget to address these concerns?
Sir, like I said, with the fighters, we have paid a lot of attention to the fighter fleets. We've increased the funding, but we did, in given resources, have to maintain a balance between the capacity that we would like and certainly the capabilities that we need for a China threat.
Do you have anything to add to that, General Costello?
Sorry, and General Nahum, correct me if I'm wrong. I think in our plan, there's a net increase to PACAF's posture over time. One thing we are doing real time, because the National Defense Strategy has us clearly focused on the threats in that region, and our services is definitely moving in that direction. We're using some outstanding, I think, techniques and some different applications of air power, such as dynamic force employment, to episodically appear and operate air power out of significantly different locations across the region that has deterrent value. And we're also asking for support in agile combat employment. That's a logistical element to that, of prepositioning and robusting locations across the theater to make air power usable. Even though if it's retained in the United States, it can rapidly deploy anywhere in the world. And we think those factors together actually respond very well to PACAF's posture needs.
Okay, fair enough. While I have you, General Costello, let me ask you about the Guam cluster. That's going to play an important role, obviously, in future air operations in the Pacific. Can you talk about how the request supports development of operational locations or other activities in the Guam cluster?
So I don't know if I can answer that specifically, and also given the room. But I will say that obviously Guam and the cluster there is a critical capability for us. It's also a main operating area that we will always want to robust and ensure it's viable in various threat levels. In addition to that, we need other operating locations, and that's something I talked about with agile combat employment. It's a combination of robusting the Guam cluster as well as investments in locations across some of the Pacific area.
Would you feel more comfortable responding in a different environment? I mean, would that be preferable?
Yes, sir. We can probably get some good specifics in the.
Okay, we'll follow up with you on.
Yes, sir.
I'll follow up with you on that. Let me ask you here, just in the few seconds I have remaining, General Nahum, back to you. Quick sync. Can you talk about how that will contribute to the Air Force's ability to deny a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, or is it intended for other scenarios, different
And
scenarios.
sir, what was that term?
Oh, quick sync, sir, this is the new Joint Direct Attack Munition that the Air Force recently demonstrated.
Sir, I'd have to take that one for the record and get back to you.
Okay, that's fine. And I see my time has expired. Thank you, Madam Chair.